Nvidia does something unprecedented when it comes to the 4090s catching on fire, and they are also speaking out of both sides of their mouth for their GPUs. A whole bunch of tech companies lose money, and I look like this. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news that I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast. And to address the comments that I'm sure that we're going to get, this is from the Cannonball for the Cure charity stream. We raised over $156,000 to cure my son's rare disease, and that involved a wacky haircut as well as my eyebrows going away. So big thanks to everybody who showed up. We're going to be locking down the giveaways today, Friday. So if you did not redeem your points over on Twitch, you have to go do that. So go to the Twitch channel, get into the chat, type in ! giveaway, and then redeem your coins for tickets because it's going to be shut down after today, and the winners will be drawn at some time in the future. Also, if you get a comment saying, hey, message me on Telegram, that's not me. You didn't win anything from me. If anything, I would always ask you to send an email to the email that's on file with the channel, which you can go find in the About section, okay? Don't ever contact me on Telegram because you're just not going to talk to me. It's somebody trying to get you to give them your information and money. Don't do it. Bad things. Speaking of bad things, the RTX 4090 is continually biting the dust as posts on the internet get more and more frequent. Tom's Hardware posting a fifth 4090 that is struggling. As you can see here, not a terrible bend in the adapter right here for the 4090, but definitely melting the cables. That's on top of the fourth person who reported theirs that has melted. So there's more and more reports that are coming out. It's a pretty big deal, but it turns out that Nvidia is taking this more seriously than any other issue that we've seen. There was previous back in the RTX 20 series, GPUs were dying because of memory issues. Nvidia didn't really ask for a whole lot there, but now when it comes to this, they're asking that the board partners send all of the faulty cards back to headquarters, back to Nvidia. They need to figure out what's going on and get this under control because it does look like this is actually a massive problem. So Nvidia taking some unprecedented steps, at least in recent history, when it comes to their GPUs not having a good time. However, the report by Igor's lab is showing that we might actually have some idea as to why specific GPUs are experiencing this and others are not, and it actually does come down to the connector itself, and not whether or not it's being bent, but rather does it use solder points for the cables or is it using crimping points for the cables? Because Nvidia specifications is that it should use crimping rather than soldering, and so anytime it's soldered, those are the ones that are actually melting the GPUs and catching on fire, which it's good to know if there's a difference between the two, and hopefully we can move forward with just only crimped styles. And this is what we're finding in the power supplies that are being provided by the companies like Silverstone, as well as a few others. They're using the correct specification, whereas some of these adapters are not using the correct specification and leading to issues. But regardless of whether or not it's crimping or soldering that's at fault here, it's also just physics, right? Sending that much power through that thin a gauge of a wire is really what's at fault. This wouldn't be happening if there were thicker wires, regardless of whether or not it was soldered. At least based on the physics and the people I've talked to, that just seems to be the case. Nvidia trying to make things, going the Apple route, right? For no good reason. Why does it have to be that small? People would gladly use 4 8-pins, right? Maybe because they thought they would get mocked because it is more power hungry. Just give the people 4 8-pins. We'll deal with it. It's not a big deal. We want a 4090. Give me 4090s. Let me know what you think of this Nvidia 4090 power debacle down below in the comments. But one of the first games I want to play on my 4090, which I do have one, is the Witcher Next Gen update with ray tracing and all that. I just want to play it, and it's not ever coming out. But they're announcing that the original Witcher, The Witcher, is actually getting an Unreal Engine 5 remake. It's going to be happening. That's the codename Canis Majoris that they talked about in their previous investor briefing, saying that there were multiple Witcher projects being underway, and a remake in UE5 looks like it's coming. I'm excited for it. I would like to play it. The thing that actually has stopped me from playing with The Witcher 1 and Witcher 2 is not just graphics, but the quality of the gameplay. It has aged severely, so having an update to all of that would make me more interested. And you guys keep being interested in Cryptostonks, so I'm gonna deliver them to you. Bitcoin down 1.29% to be at under 20.5. Ethereum down a little bit to be at 1535, but Dogecoin, we'll talk about this in a little bit. It's up 11% to be at 8 cents. That's what happens when your cheap marketing mouth actually acquires a social media company. big gains, which, Reece, give us the big sales that we got with UFD Deals.
Hey everyone, welcome back to UFD Deals. We're bringing the hottest tech deals out on the internet. We got a couple of well-rounded deals for you today, as well as a surprise at the end, so stay tuned for that. But starting off, we have the MSI Mech Radeon RX 6600 8GB. This GDDR6 graphics card is going for only $199.99 after a $20 rebate and a $50 promo code that we'll have linked down for you. And next up, we have the AMD Ryzen 7 5600G, an 8-core 16-thread CPU with a 4.6 GHz max boost, going for only $199, which is 45% off and the lowest price in 30 days. And don't forget, you can find these linked in the video description down below. But now I'm going to set the stage for a spooky surprise in partnership with our friends over at Green Man Gaming, with their Halloween sale now live until November 1st. You can get ghoulishly good games at killer prices with new deals regularly rising from the grave. Right now you can save up to 80% on the Resident Evil franchise, including the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes. Then there's 49% off both editions of Tiny Tina's Wonderland, as well as up to 87% off on select Bethesda titles, including The Evil Within 1 and 2, Ghostwire Tokyo, Deathloop, and more. And just remember, these are just a few of the scarily good deals available during the Green Man Gaming Halloween sale, so be sure to check out the full sale while you still can. You can find the link below, courtesy of our editor Catlin, as well as down in the description. And with that, I hope you guys have a great weekend, enjoy the savings, and I hope to see you guys again on Monday. Cheers.
Thanks, buddy. Really appreciate that. Also, I do appreciate, as a Google Workspace user, I'm getting more storage. Workspace users are getting 1 terabyte of storage as opposed to the 15 gigabytes that used to be included with Workspace, something that the average Gmail user gets, but now they're upping it, which just makes sense. If I'm going to pay for Gmail, I should get more storage. This works out. I'm happy with this. Thank you, Google. And Ford and Volkswagen not happy with Argo, their self-driving arm that they kind of fused together to try to come up with autonomous driving. They are shutting it down because they said that they can't really figure out a way to make it profitable even as a level 4 system. Additionally, they haven't been able to find anybody willing to invest in it, so they had a $2.7 billion non-cash pre-tax impairment on their investment, which led to Ford posting an $827 million net loss for Q3. This coming in the face of Tesla rolling out a semi-beta for their full self-driving, which, I mean, is going to work better than this because Argo's now shut down and Tesla is actually pretty profitable at the moment. Their Q3 earnings was really, really good. But Microsoft coming out talking about their earnings when it comes to Xbox Game Pass, you would think that subscription services could potentially overtake a large portion of their revenue, but Phil Spencer saying that he doesn't think that's going to be the case. It's likely going to stay at 15% for as long as he can foresee, and it'll just be a larger number every single year, but that everything else in association with Xbox will continue to grow. So he doesn't expect that the subscription industry service is actually going to overtake their whole revenues. But Meta's overtaken their whole philosophy and vision with VR, AR, metaverse crap, and that they're losing a lot of money. They came out with their Q3 earnings, and it's bad. A $3.7 billion loss in Q3, which was $2.6 billion last year and $2.8 billion the previous quarter. And they're saying that we do anticipate that Reality Labs operating losses in 2023 will grow significantly year over year. Like they're not spending 3.7 billion. They're losing 3.7 billion, which tells me they're spending even more than that, and the revenues just aren't offsetting it. But where's the results from it, right? Like, is it really just the fact that we have their Event Horizons game app, Horizon Quest? What, I don't even know what it's called. They're marketing so bad. And then number 2, is it really that they spent $4 billion developing the actual MetaQuest Pro, which very few people are going to use? I don't see it. I have been seeing a few videos on the MetaQuest Pro, and it gets me intrigued, but I just don't see why they're betting the entire future of their company on this, although I do a little bit. Anyways, Mark Zuckerberg saying that he expects that this is going to be a continuous problem. This is a massive undertaking, and it's often going to take a few versions of each product before they become mainstream, but I think that our work here is going to be of historic importance and create the foundation for an entirely new way that we will interact with each other and blend technology into our lives, which I disagree with. I don't see anything that Meta has built and been like, that's gonna revolutionize the industry. But I have been thinking of this a little bit, and I want to have some conversation with y'all down below in the comments. What else is Facebook to do, right? Like, their ad model got destroyed by Apple. Their viability as a platform for people to connect together on is being overtaken by the likes of YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and other social media apps. They're really no longer the place where people are putting their attention because they don't know how to grab onto that. And they're seeing that there's likely not a whole lot of viability in them continuing to be a social media company. So Zuckerberg looks out and he's like, hey, what did I do back when I was in Harvard Harvard trying to be a despicable human being and making all of this dating crap where you could rate people. I was forthright looking to the future and seeing what was on the horizon, and that is social media. But what can I do now? What's the up and coming thing now? It's the metaverse, right? Like that feels to me what the conversation is. He's trying to grasp at what the thing is they can pivot to, because otherwise Facebook's dead, right? Like if they don't have this, they actually just have a declining business that people are going to continually stop using as they adopt other social media platforms. I don't know. That's just my thought. What do you think about it? Let me know down below in the comments, but that's not the only social media company's shakeup in the industry right now. Elon Musk's Twitter acquisition is set to go through today. However, he's changing his tune a little bit when it comes to how many layoffs he's going to perform on Twitter employees. According to previous reports, it was going to be up to 75% of the entire workforce of Twitter was going to be layoffs. However, now they're saying that he's not planning on doing that. It's potentially supposed to be closer to 25%, so not as devastating, but Elon Musk walking into the Twitter HQ with a sink, because he's trying to make the pun of let that sink in, so they let the sink in, which is just like, he has a lot of kids, so he's got to have a lot of dad jokes. Catlin, can you cringe at this one for me? Thanks, Catlin, and I'm gonna cringe a little bit because we just did a whole cross-country live stream drive. We partially used Starlink for it. I had to make a whole conversion where I took a Starlink dish, cracked it open, made it a flat mount, and slapped it on the roof of my Tesla to drive across the country. Well, the day after I get back, SpaceX finally announces the Starlink version for RVs that's meant to be used in motion, and it's gonna cost a huge price. It's their flat high-performance dish. It has actually a few improvements that would have been good for us, but it's gonna start at $2,500. However, it can see 35% more of the sky. It has better GPS setup. You can see right here, better visibility, enhanced GPS capabilities, which helps with in-motion connectivity. It's a wedge mount to be installed at 8 degrees for water to run off, has improved weather resistance, and 1.7 times better at snow melt capability. So that's what they're designing for people to use on the go. I spent significantly less than this, and it actually worked pretty decently. Maybe this would have worked better in some of the places where Starlink wasn't having a whole lot of coverage, but that's the problem for next year, especially after I forgot that I unsuction cupped the Starlink, had to drive to a doctor's appointment today, and as I pulled out, I hear it fly off the back of the Tesla, and then I see somebody run it over, and then Catlin, just show them the video. So guess who loosened the Starlink off of the car, left it on top of the car, then drove down the highway, forgot to take it off the roof, and got it run over. I don't know who possibly could be in that situation right now. Who does that happen to? This is a big problem for me. And it doesn't appear to be a big problem for Nvidia that they're gonna name a GPU the same thing, even though they're not the same thing. This is one of the reasons why they gave for them canceling the RTX 4080 12 gig. They were like, it's too confusing. We're sorry you idiots couldn't understand. But now that doesn't really matter when it comes to the RTX 3060 and 3060 Ti, because they're officially announcing new versions of those GPUs. The 3060 Ti new version is going to be faster, the 3060 new version is going to be slower, but don't worry, you don't need to worry about getting confused, because that's the whole point. They just want you to give them their money. They don't need you to understand the difference. It's not for the informed consumer. This is for the person picking up an HP because they're just trying to find the best deal on Best Buy, and they say, oh, it has a 3060, too bad it's 33% slower because the memory bandwidth's worse, but they don't care about that. It's not about whether it's confusing for the consumer, or it's not about whether or not they're called the same thing, like the RTX 4080 12 and 16 gigabyte. It's about whether or not are you going to complain about it. Is this a problem for us in the public light? Okay, are we going to upset our shareholders and our purchasers? Is anybody really going to complain about this besides me? Probably not. Personally, I think this is worse than the RTX 4080 issue. They're selling an RTX 3060 that is not only less VRAM, but also slower because it has a less memory bandwidth, and that's just like, you're actually taking more advantage of people because this is gonna sell in higher volumes. The RTX 4080, I kinda, just me, would expect them to be more informed because they're dropping $1,000 plus on a GPU. The people who are buying this for roughly $300 to $400 are more of the entry-level consumer, the mainstream level person. The fact that they're doing this is actually gonna hurt a lot more people than the RTX 4080 issue would have ever. So that's I'm more bothered by this. But like, you could slice it the other way. The RTX 3060 Ti is better because it has faster memory bandwidth, and they're never going to tell you about that. It's a whole complicated thing. Don't worry. It doesn't matter what any company says. They're just really looking for one thing. That's profit. And Mark Zuckerberg can't find his, and I'm not going to find any piece here today complaining about it. So I'm going to end this episode of Hot News. I'm going to go shave my hair. I initially was going to do that before Hot News, but then people donated an extra $500 to the charity for me to keep it for Hot News. So I had to go to my doctor's appointment like this. Thanks, everybody. Love you too. Thank you for helping me cure my son. I'll see you back here for Hot News on Monday.